Call the meeting to order for February 15, 2022. Ms. Cindy, have roll call.
Okay. Ms. Richards?
Present.
Mr. Toller?
Here.
Ms. Abrams?
Here.
Mr. Westmoreland?
Present.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Bush? Mr. Moore?
Here.
Ms. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Dominguez?
Present.
This time we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance and patriotic songs. I'll turn this over to Ms. Simmons.
All right, tonight we're honored to have a student from LaRonger High, a sophomore, Sonara Tanner, and she will be leading us in the pledge and the national anthem, and then you're going to have to stand a while tonight because it's all patriotic, but on the national anthem, then she's going to follow that with God Bless America, and then my pastor, Brother Mike Vaughn from Good News Fellowship Church that just did the prayer is going to also sing God Bless the USA. So you'll be able to stand that long, I think. But wait, also too, I would like for you to introduce your family after you get through with your singing, okay? Thank you. We stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now you can turn. Okay. Give me a second. Give me a second.
while Brother Mike Vaughn is coming up, you could go ahead and introduce your family.
I'd like to introduce my family in the second and third row, and
Would
in
you
the
stand?
back row.
Oh, in the back,
there.
okay. And what about the one sitting next to you? Introduce.
This is attorney Cassandra Butler. You want to say something?
Is that family behind you too?
This is Mama Shira Tanner and John L. Jefferson.
All right, thank you for being here. And then also, I neglected to mention the fact that we have Damon Brumfield. He's the talented and music instructor for our district, in the back. Okay, thank you. All right.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I just have to start again, just my children and my life. I thank the Lord to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom. They can't take that away. I'm proud to be in America, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. So I gladly stand next to you and defend her still today. Oh, there ain't no doubt about this land. God bless the USA. The lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, and I'm proud to be in America, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. So I gladly stand up and defend her still today. Oh, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Yes, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. So I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Oh, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the
Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Brother Mike, tell us who you got with you, brother.
I have my lovely wife, Barbara, with me tonight, and my grandson, Brady.
Sounds good.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Move on to recognition. A, recognize February, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. We got to go back to D, consider approval of the board minutes of January 18, 2022. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Motion's been made.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Robin. Any discussion on the minutes? Call for a vote.
Voting is open.
Cindy?
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Moving to 2A, recognize February as Black History Month. You do not look like Lisa Fusel, but...
And I'm not as smart as Dr. Fusel either, but I will do my best to take up the slack for her.
All right,
this
go ahead,
afternoon.
Mr. Jinko.
Good evening, everyone. Every
Good
February,
evening. My name is Joshua.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hey, Joshua.
every February, the United States honors the contributions and sacrifices of African Americans who have helped shape this nation. Ms. Kima Davis, the assistant principal at Hammond High, shared with some central office administrators how Hammond High is celebrating Black History Month with a daily presentation of Black excellence in a variety of areas via a slab presentation throughout the month of February, teaching the students that Black history is American history. So here we have a student from Hammond High that is going to take it from here.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Bluen, and I am a senior at Hammond High Magnet School. In honor of Black History Month, we celebrate the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history, as well as an award-winning writer and cum laude graduate of Harvard University, Miss Amanda Gorman. Gorman was the first person to be named National Youth Poet Laureate. In 2021, she delivered her poem, The Hill We Climb, at the inauguration of U.S. President Joseph R. Biden. Tonight, I will be reading her latest poem entitled New Day's Lyric. May this be the day we come together. Morning we come to mend, withered we come to weather, torn we come to tend, battered we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been ready by it. We steadily vow that no matter how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it, to leave the known and take the first steps. Let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee. Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now these moments we make. The moments we meet, and our hearts, once altogether beaten, now altogether beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember, not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts we hear, for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. Be bold, sang time this year, be bold, sang time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow you will find. Know that we fought, need not be forgot, none, nor for none. It defines us, binds us as one. Come over, join this day just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I'd like to add, Mr. President, that, all of our schools are putting things out on their Facebook page about Black History Month, and I know I've seen several things at Ponchatoula High School as well, and to encourage everyone, the public, as well as our board, to pay attention this month as they post out those things that they're doing at their schools. Thank you.
Right, moving on to B, tribute to Miss Chesley Christ, 2019 Miss USA, relative to the awareness of hidden depression. Miss Janice.
Good evening. First, other stuff, not for our reading tonight. During this present time of cyber attacks, the pandemic, multiple deaths, Hurricane Ida, the virtual learning worker shortage, money shortage, and mental anguish, I was comforted by a sermon my pastor, Devion Brown, simply entitled, "This is Too Much," which I posted on my news feed. However, the very next day, I was prompted by a friend from East St. John to listen to a podcast by Hannah Drake discussing the tragic, unexpectedly suicide of Miss USA 2019 that ironically occurred on the brink of Black History Celebration Month. I was heartbroken and devastated, and with my personal empathy, I decided and desired to share my reading and my thoughts with you. Although Hannah's pod addresses the Black woman in light of depression, let me be clear. Depression and suicide have no color, no race, no gender, no age, and no boundaries. It applies to all of us. Hannah's blog and my thoughts. Black women, it's okay to let go of your cape. When I learned about the death of Chesley Chris, a 30-year-old Black female, highly educated, attorney at law, fashion blogger, entertainment news correspondent, Miss USA 2019, and the list goes on and on. I immediately felt compelled to look at her Instagram. Her last post was a stunning photo of her with the words, "May this day find you rest and peace." Hours later, Chris would leap from the 29th floor of her New York apartment building. According to media, she left a note leaving her mother everything with no other information. I strolled through her social media and stared intensely at her photos, wondering, was she happy? Or was she like so many women, finding moments of happiness? On the outside, Chris is stunningly beautiful, wouldn't you say? With a life that many of us would long to have. But we must remember that social media is just a carefully curated moments, and we never ever see the shadows or know the loneliness and the lingering in their real lives. I once read that people fake depression. They don't fake depression. You know what they fake? They fake being okay. Hannah wrote a blog saying, "How are you? I mean, really, how are you?" It was at a very low point in my life. However, on the outside, everything appeared perfect. I was waking up every day, going through the motion, posting on social media, posting pictures, smiling, laughing, working, being a mother, being a wife, cooking, cleaning, and paying the bills, all while feeling so empty on the inside. But with the proper lighting, and do you know, with the photo ops, editing, makeup, and face beating, pain can be concealed very well. While we do not know what Chris was facing, but I do understand what it is to be a Black woman in this world. America has developed and perpetrated a narrative that Black women are always strong and resilient. I believe this narrative is saddled on the backs of Black women so that Black women will not be perceived as we need assistance, we need compassion, we need patience, and we need understanding. Black women are never given the opportunity or afforded the luxury of being a victim. And sadly, many Black women have bought into this myth, Black girl magic. Well, Black girl magic has been so distorted It now means that black women are capable of doing any and everything at any time. You need our vote? We will do it. You need us to teach? We will do it. You need diversity and equity? We will do it. You need us to promote injustice, protect injustice? We will do it. You need us to save the nation? We will do it. We can shoulder it all, because after all, we are strong women. Who are we? Who are we to ask for help? How dare we ask for assistance? Who are we to ask for our work? We believe we must always be the ones to fix it, because this world has always demanded that we fix it. And sadly, we have often answered that call without little or no concern to how we really feel. Online, we are berated. We are judged daily about the tone of our voice, the color of our skin, the style of our hair, the shape of our bodies. Everything about us is scrutinized. And still, we hold our heads up and we fight another day. We are often fighting for people who will never, ever, ever fight for us. And truthfully, honestly, we do get tired. Black women hold so much inwardly and are penalized if we show our feelings outwardly. We are fighting battles this world can't even begin to comprehend. We are trying to hold up others while suppressing our own demons that manifest in ways that are detrimental to our mental and physical health. We smile when we really want to cry. We say we are fine when we are not. To show you who we really are means that we are weak, and this world doesn't allow black women to be vulnerable. This isn't magic. Black women have just found a way to make this look easy. And this so-called strength is not magic if it's killing us. And as February is the month of our recognition, I want to stand with Hannah. I am challenging women, black women, to reclaim yourself, reclaim your work, find your peace, find your center, reclaim the true meaning of self-care. Audre Lorde said that caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. The only reward this world has ever given black women for being undervalued, overworked, and underpaid is an early grave. Oh yeah, and sure. And engraved on your headstone, or someone will graciously say on your eulogy, she was a strong black woman. But guess what? The world will keep on turning. So please, black women, know that this is your time. This is the moment about you and your peace, your happiness, and your love. You are under no obligation to be the one and the only superwoman. It's okay to tell your pastor that you're hurting. It is okay to tell your family that you're tired. It is okay to tell a counselor that you are not fine. Ask for help. Take some notes from Lizzo. Yes. Do your hair toss. Check your nails. But be honest with yourself. Baby, how are you feeling?
This time I'm going to add a little something to the agenda, and I'm going to ask Ms. Robin if she will follow me to the podium. You want to come, Ms. Garrett? This time we'd like to present the honorary gavel to Ms. Robin Abrams, who was our president last year for 2021. May I add, did an excellent job, and we've got some big shoes to fill.
Last week I asked Miss Cindy, I said,
what happened to the gavel that we gave to Miss Sandra that last year? And she said, I guess I broke the surprise, huh? Thank y'all so much. It was a pleasure serving.
Yeah, let me take a picture.
Should have glued it down where she couldn't get it anymore.
I guess you're outdated.
Oh, you got one? No.
I never got a gavel either. We got something else.
They down here mumbling amongst themselves like they didn't get one. Somebody done started something.
Dawkins didn't get one. It started with me, Dawkins.
I want the real
They'd
one.
all be.
That's the real.
Plaque or something.
All right, now moving on to 3A, presentation of donation to Crime Stoppers of Tangipahoa Parish. Mr. Jinko.
Thank you again. Good evening, everyone. When we talk, with Ms. Stilley and the administrative team, we talk about rowing a boat and the individuals that you want in the boat assisting you to row, everybody rowing in the same direction. And we are very proud to have Crime Stoppers in the boat with us rowing to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. So at this time, I'd ask Mr. Westmoreland, Ms. Stilley, and Mr. Porter, if y'all will come up and we'll make our donation to Crime Stoppers to assist them in everything they do to help us, and we'll put a little plug in for our P3 app.
Yes, if I could just give a really quick update. All of the high schools have received a presentation, finishing up the middle schools. We just had these P3 magnets made for the school buses, on the inside of the school buses, and hopefully you should have received these today.
And 45 cents, make sure you put the
And
45 cents.
since December, we've received 76 tips from students, and law enforcement has made 5 welfare checks to students with suicidal thoughts. So the process is working. The students are using P3. This is the card they receive after the presentations, and I want to thank you so much for this contribution to Crime Stoppers. Thank you so much. Thank y'all. Thank you. That's what I want. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, academic update. We're going to remove A, update on Fast Forward. We're going to have Ms. Cooper, I think, next month for that update. B, update on social emotional learning. Ms. Amy Fairchild and Ms. Crystal Hooper.
I got it. Here. Let me get that. I'm so sorry. Oh, you're fine. Okay. Okay.
Thank y'all for having us. So Crystal and I'm Amy Fairchild. I'm an LCSW. We've presented to y'all before, and we appreciate y'all having us back for an update. Crystal and I, well, Crystal's going to assume the new position soon, as soon as they're able to fill behind her, so she's still pulling double duty. But we wanted to kind of let you know the work that we've been doing this past year to kind of keep everybody abreast of the great work Tangipahoa is doing with social emotional learning and how we're actually leading the state in this work. So what is social emotional learning? That's what we keep hearing, right? Everybody knows about it, but nobody really knows about it. So we're just going to kind of give y'all the quick and easy. So who's responsible for this? Are Crystal and I responsible for this? The answer is everybody is responsible for this. Every single one of us, you all included, have the capability to set the tone, to set the climate, the way we speak our language, the way we support one another. All of that is social emotional learning. Engaging with one another, building relationships, supporting one another is social emotional learning. So everyone from central office to our families are engaged in this work and responsible for this work. So what exactly is SEL? SEL are the skills that we use, basic life skills, to be successful in life. This is regulating our emotions. This is feeling confident that we can achieve goals. This is maintaining supportive relationships that we need to have. These are the skills our kids need to be able to sit in the classroom, open their minds, and be receptive to learning the skills that we're trying to teach them. So you see over here, I have the basic CASEL framework, and that shows you the five key components of social emotional learning. So we have self-awareness. How do I and my actions impact others? We have self-management. How can I manage the things that are happening in my life? How can I feel confident to do the things that I need to do? Responsible decision-making. When I am presented with a conflict, how do I handle it? What choices do I make in life? Relationship skills, something we all need. How do we handle conflict? How do we cooperate with one another? How do we work together? And social awareness. So being aware of ourselves and our environment, and being aware of basically having empathy for others. What you'll see is the rings outside. It starts in the classroom. Our schools are responsible for the culture, the practices, the policies. So it starts at the top, it works its way down. We have partnerships with our families, and then we have aligned learning opportunities in our communities, which Crystal's going to talk about as well. So why is this important? What we know is that having skills such as social emotional learning skills is linked to academic performance, it's linked to our behaviors, it's linked to lower levels of distress, and it's linked to our attendance. If we pull our discipline records right now, what you'll find is we have kids leaving classroom without permission, leaving school without permission. We have truancy numbers that are very high right now. And we have students who are saying they don't believe they can be successful with rigorous work. That was what the feedback they gave us in our last survey, which we're going to talk about. That's what's linked here. So we can improve all of these things if we change our focus to the social emotional learning piece. So when is this going to be happening? We started in December with our individual SEL surveys. So that's where our students, grades 3 through 12, and our teachers did the perception that they have of their students pre-K through second to see what skills do you have. When you wake up, if you're having a bad morning, are you able to get yourself out of that mood? Or are you the student that the teacher tells us, I saw on their face when they got off the bus, it was going to be a bad day, and sure enough, it was a bad day, right? That's the ability to regulate emotions. So those are the skills that our students helped us to identify of, are you capable of this or do you struggle with this? If the teacher is going over a lesson that you're struggling with, do you give up because it's too hard and you don't have confidence that you can understand it? Or do you persevere? Do you have the courage to ask for help? We need to make sure that we're hearing our kids and they have voice so that we can know what skills, what deficits they have, and we can help provide the supports. So right now, we're in the middle of our culture and climate survey. We did this last year, we reviewed it with you all, now we'll have a comparison piece. And we are fully aware that we went through a hurricane this year, so we're not expecting to see, we're not looking to see, oh, we were here and now we're here. We're looking to see, last year this is where our needs were, this year this is where our needs are, right? What are our staff and students saying? What supports do they have? What supports do they need? Is anything that we've put in place helping? We wanted to hear from our people, and they have until tomorrow to still complete it. So anybody who hasn't done it, we encourage them to do so. We implemented an SEL word of the week. We believe SEL, we know SEL is more than a binder on a shelf that you complete from 8 to 9 a.m. and then you put back on the shelf. SEL is something that is a language we speak. It's a lifestyle we live. It's the way we interact with one another. It's the way we support each other. So what we've introduced is not an SEL curriculum. It is tools to give our teachers, to give our administrators, to start speaking the language. So we're going to talk about what those words of the week look like, what those icebreaker activities look like. And then coming up in March, we're going to have SEL Day. So this is a nationwide event. They dedicated March 11th, and it's going to be moving forward the second Friday of every March, to where we promote it, we talk about it, we bring light to it and the significance of it. So what does it look like for us? So here are some of our fabulous Facebook posts. I say fabulous because I had nothing to do with it. We provided the tools and our technology department took over from there. So some of our previous word of the week, we started off with responsibility. And as you can see, the students see exactly what that means to be responsible. Honoring your commitments, fulfilling your obligations. So what does that look like in the classroom? The tools that we give our teachers to use. A skill builder, such as organizing your personal space. Okay, everybody, we got 5 minutes before the bell rings. Let's look at our book bags. Let's clean them out. Let's see if they're organized. Let's get ourselves together. Okay, everybody, let's look around at our space. Let's pick up after ourselves. Okay, if you left anything behind, pick it up, throw it in the garbage on your way out. That's being responsible. We're just teaching them those basic life skills that we all need to be successful. So this week our word is courage. So you can see that middle picture is actually the background on our students' Chromebooks. So every week they are reminded of what the word of the week is. For courage, one of the skill builders we have are discuss examples of peer pressure. So if you have a few minutes before class, we want our teachers to have conversations with our kids that aren't necessarily instruction, that are just having those conversations. We know once we get to know each other, we're invested in each other. We have a relationship all of a sudden. We care a little bit more. And when our kids know we care about them, then they care a little bit more about what we're trying to teach them. And they might be a little bit more open to learning whatever skill it is that we're trying to teach. So we have a partnership here in Tangi with a company called Panorama. We reviewed the survey with them, the cultural climate survey with you all last January, I believe, or February. Through this partnership, we have our student SEL survey, which I went over. The areas of strength our students identified was social awareness. So our kids are saying they believe that they're empathetic. They believe that they do see how their actions affect other people. The areas of opportunity that they identified, self-efficacy. This is their belief that they can be successful with difficult work. Having confidence to overcome. The ability to regulate their emotions. Again, if we go back to that discipline piece, another thing we would see in addition to leaving classroom without permission is fighting. So we know conflict resolution is an issue. We know that comes from not regulating our emotions. So this is the piece our students are identifying. And self-management, managing one's emotions and thoughts and how it affects our behavior. So all of that is linked to academic performance as well as attendance. The other thing we have with Panorama is this student culture and climate survey. So how are we doing? We did one in February or January. We shared those results with you. We knew that our strengths at that time, our students were saying they had supportive relationships. The opportunities they identified were engagement in the classroom instruction and their sense of belonging on our campuses. Teachers and staff identified school climate overall as one of our areas of opportunity. We started meeting, as soon as we finished that survey, we started sharing that data with schools. Schools developed school well-being teams, where every school has a team of people who are looking at this data, who are developing plans. How can we target these areas? How can we make our kids feel more like they belong at school? Having a student of the month, recognizing birthdays, celebrating accomplishments, sharing things on social media. We want them to feel a part of our family. We want them to see their faces and read their names on our social networks. Levels of engagement, what we can do in the classroom. We surveyed again in the spring, and I'll tell you, the response rates in the spring were much lower than those that we had back in January. But what we saw a 5% increase in sense of belonging. We saw a 7% increase in level of engagement. So just by acknowledging these things, just by it being on our radar, we were already seeing improvements. So hopefully, with us all learning the language, starting to use the language and walk that walk, we'll start to see even more improvements, which will also show up in our test scores and grades and everything else. Every year we do a family survey. This year we'll be doing the family survey through Panorama, so it will be digital. So there will be a TPSS messenger that's sent out through the text message. There will be a link directly to the survey to make it as convenient as parents as possible to give us feedback. They'll be able to address their perceptions of the school, their perceptions of how their child is doing, the school environment overall, and their perception of school safety. So this is direct feedback that we'll get from our parents digitally so that we'll have that data. The final tool that we have from Panorama is new, and it's called check-ins. So this can be utilized as frequently as possible. It can be done at the school level, it can be done at the classroom level, and this gives them a chance to take a pulse. So they don't have to wait for that annual survey to see if what they're doing is working. They can check in at any time. This can be weekly, this can be monthly. A classroom teacher can do an academic check-in. What barriers were in the classroom for you today? What's something new that you took away from today's class? What is something more I can do to help you with this learning process? So it can be an exit ticket. A teacher can get real-time feedback directly from her students. And only the teachers who teach the students have access to their responses. So it's confidential. And administrators can see the students on their campus who've checked in. Administrators, if something happens in the community, they can do a check-in for 9th graders. They can do a check-in for the whole school and say, how are you feeling? Do you need to talk to somebody? Obviously, what we've encouraged our administrators, if they're going to ask that question, is to make sure that they have their counselors on their campus that day, or they have other counselors available in case a bunch of students do say so. But we're excited about this new tool. Crystal.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Crystal Hooper, a licensed professional counselor supervisor, and Amy and I have been working very diligently to try to assist our schools and assist our parish. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the SEL tools. So what we decided is, as we were looking at how do we implement SEL, how do we normalize SEL in our school district, and we've been saying for a while, even, you know, Ms. Stilley's been saying it from the top up, let's build relationships, let's build relationships. But what does that mean? Right? If you say build a relationship, my building a relationship means something different than your building relationship. And so with the Icebreakers tool that Amy mentioned, what we did was we created weekly words that she mentioned, words of the week, and so everyone is speaking that language. This week is courage. The kids are going to see courage on their Chromebooks when they open up. Well, also, you have some schools that are making an announcement, remember to be courageous today, you know, and the teachers are talking. It's a language. These are soft skills. So when we implement soft skills and we teach the skills, then the kids can go home and talk about those words. We've also listed them on our website. If the parents go and visit Tangi's website, they're going to see the word of the week. In that same list of icebreakers, we've given age-appropriate activities, just as Amy mentioned. So kindergarten or elementary, middle, and high school, there are activities that the teacher can simply mention. Some of them say write it out, some of it say popcorn it out, talk about it, discuss it. We're engaging in this actual word, each one of those words. And this is how the kids will begin to feel like, oh, you care about my thoughts. You want to talk about what's going on with me. You're interested in me, and that's how we build relationships. Next, we gave the strategies of reinforcing SEL skills. We looked at our topics: self-management, social awareness, self-efficacy, social perspective taking, emotional regulations, and we gave them a tool that it's like a cheat sheet, like a one-pager. So if they're looking at their Panorama results and they're saying, hey, I have this student that's struggling in class, well, they can go directly to this one-pager and there's the student struggling in self-management, the ability to manage their behaviors. And so they can define what does it mean by looking at the definitions, and then they also can look at strategies. How do I take the behaviors that I'm seeing in front of me and give an intervention for this child? We did not want to give more tools. If you look at the Panorama site, it can be overwhelming. So we tried to make it as simplistic as possible with have this one sheeter in front of you, pull up the student's name, pull up their record, and you across the board can assess what's going on with the student, and you have interventions on how to assist the student as well. We also gave the principals options to do deep dives. So we gave them a schedule. Hey, if you want to sit with us, talk about your school's data, review, your strengths and your weaknesses, review your plans. We sat with each the schools that were interested in doing that, and we went through the data with them. And every school was in a different place. We had some schools that came to the table. Here's what we've done. Here's what we're doing. We would like feedback on this. We had some schools that came to the table, we haven't looked at it at all. that's okay. We can help you too. And then when we go through it with you, we can come back and discuss it again. And so for our winter 21 culture and climate, we worked with 20 schools. In the fall, we worked 4 schools so far, and we have 2 requests. And so we're still doing a survey right now, so as they get through them, we're taking a deep dive with them. Our well-being teams, we're taking the deep dives with them, and we've also done it within our learning communities. So the learning communities, curriculum coaches, assistant principals, the number of people that are on campuses supporting the schools, those people also know how to take a deep dive. So what's to come? We have been promoting Tangie's process. We've been invited by Louisiana Department of Education, their state wellbeing team. We've been invited to be on their board, their team as well. So we've been meeting with them monthly, and we will be presenting the work that we've been doing in Tangie to the state wellbeing team, which is all of the other teams throughout the state of Louisiana, and what we're doing here in Tangie. They have been interested in knowing, what are y'all doing? Tangie has been the name buzzing in all of the parishes throughout our state because they want to know, how are you doing this work? And not only how are you doing the work, how can you assist us with doing the work? We have been asked to present at the Teacher Leader Summit, and the title is Normalizing SEL. Well, how do we do that? Exactly what we've been doing, giving icebreakers, talking a language, putting up the words, asking everyone in our communities to speak a certain language, and that's how we're going to build relationships and normalize those soft skills. And so we have also been asked to possibly participate in a state initiative for staff well-being. One of the things that came out of our survey last time, the Culture and Climate Survey, was the needs of our staff. We are anticipating that again. So this will be a tool to help our staff with a possible life coach, watching videos to help them in areas like burnout, dealing with conflicts and difficult parents. And so those are some of the things that we're talking about now. We have also asked our talented arts and our art classes, digital media classes to participate in an SEL logo contest. And so we've asked our students, hey, can y'all help us in creating a logo for our SEL program? So one of the prizes is going to have an art gallery right out here in front of central office. They'll win a scholarship toward art supplies, and we will begin to use their logo that they create on all of our information, including our t-shirts. And so SEL Day, March 11th, we're asking the district to wear 11 to bring awareness, because a part of the work is making everyone aware of social emotional learning. What does it mean? And so we've asked the schools to participate with door decorating contests, have assemblies, acts of kindness, something as simple as a bulletin board with sticky notes with random acts of kindness. The kids can go up, do those acts, and report that's what they did. You know, district-wide activities, we're gonna do some raffles, we'll visit the schools, and we will spotlight the schools that have made their best efforts to bring awareness to SEL on SEL Day. We've also worked on some community partnerships. One of the things that we've noticed that we've been having, some of the issues in our district have been the level of suicide and threat assessments that have been happening. As you know, we've spoken about that a little bit today. Trainings for vaping. We've noticed that vaping is a big issue now within the parish. Controlling relationships, and then we've spoken with Attorney Vanessa Williams. So we went to the principals meeting and we presented material to them, just letting them know, hey, our schools are having this number of vaping issues. We're completing more suicide and threat assessments than ever. And here are some trainings that we have put together that you can allow some people to come into your school to assist you in the areas in which there is opportunity, right? If you're completing threat assessments, if you're completing suicide assessments, here's a training that assist training in February. If you're having a lot of vapes on your campus that you're finding and kids are getting, drug tested and suspended, here is a prevention and evidence evidence-based prevention on vaping. So we have given the schools the opportunity. We've had 4 schools sign up for Vanessa Williams to come in, 4 for Catch My Breath, and 1 school for the Love 146. And what we did was we launched it in the spring because we know testing is coming. So we looked at the month of March and we said, we don't want to overwhelm you. Here's the month of March, and then we'll get feedback from those students. And then we also have principals sign up for the fall as well. And here are our final takeaways. Social emotional learning is not something else that we're adding to the plate. Social emotional learning is the plate. We have to teach our kids these soft skills. We have to build relationships with our kids. And we want to do it without our teachers and our staff feeling overwhelmed. So we have tried to make it as simple as possible by giving tools, giving interventions, not just recognizing problems, but also giving solutions. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Duncan.
No, I'll ask this of Miss Carly since she's trying to hand it off to you, but no, I'm sorry. So if you remember that when y'all first introduced the panorama thing, I had some concerns or some questions about, just kind of the overwhelming nature of the portal and the concern that it would be a burden to our classroom level educators if we didn't, try to focus on that issue. In some of my conversations with the classroom level teachers the last few weeks, I still don't really get the sense from them that they understand what we're trying to do. And I'm not sure that they understand, what the surveys are all about and, where we're ultimately trying to get to with it. And so I guess my first question is, what are we doing, and then maybe what are some plans to kind of help push down that level of understanding to those classroom level instructors?
That's a great question, and yes, it was brought to our attention as well very quickly in the fall that awareness and getting the information out there, being as transparent as possible, helping people understand what is this, why are we doing it, and so that has been one of our keys to get in front of as many audiences like Crystal listed. We've been meeting with the curriculum coaches, we've been meeting because we feel like it's important. We can't go into a classroom teacher's room and talk to her about her students if we haven't met with her administrators, if we haven't met with the district supervisors, if we haven't. So we're really working from the top down in informing, making sure you're understanding, clarifying any questions, seeing how this applies, getting your feedback. And so we did that at the district level. Then we went to the principals. We got the principals' feedback. How does this apply to your school? What do you need from us? We got together, we worked, we researched, then we went to the assistant principals, the curriculum coaches, so that the people going in to support those teachers, because they can't do it by themselves, they're familiar. So then when the teachers ask for help, and when it comes to the teachers, then they can understand, okay, who can help me with this? And there's a team of people who are ready, who have been prepped, and who understand how it works, what to look for, because we don't want them to feel like they're drowning. We don't want them to feel overwhelmed by it. Anybody that does classroom observations has been trained to look at the data. The SEL data allows us to look at the individual student's needs. So a counselor, for instance, can create a group based on, okay, my 5th graders are getting in lots of fights. Here's my group of 5th graders, look at that. The same ones that are getting in fights have ranked themselves low in emotional regulation. I'm gonna flag their little accounts. I'm gonna put them in a group. That way their teachers, their administrators know I, the counselor at that school, am pulling these kids to work with them on conflict resolution. I'm helping them with emotional regulation.
So is there like an online CLE or video that our teachers can watch to maybe just understand the portal and how they can use it and view it as an asset rather than a burden of some new task that they're required to do?
Yes, in fact, our technology department made us that recommendation, and so we have a Google folder for SEL resources that is accessible to everybody in the parish, and there's a panorama folder, and within it there is a all things panorama Google sheet, and one of them links them directly to a bunch of how-to videos, so they can find the video that fits their need. Crystal and I are also going to work with technology to develop one specific to our parish. Okay. So I was telling somebody earlier, we're rolling out slow so that it can be effective, but we also realize we needed this yesterday, so we have to go full speed ahead. So we're really trying to pace ourselves and trying to, we have some schools that are ready to run with it. And like she said, we have some schools that have never seen it, heard of it, aren't sure what to think about it. And so we're trying to work with both of them at their pace.
So that's been created, but have we pushed that out to let them know that it's available yet?
There's been no pushing, no.
Okay,
It's
okay.
out there and it's available and we've made people know about it. It's been in their teacher newsletters, so
Okay.
those who are looking for it can find it. But there have been no mandates made of teachers, there's been no requirements of any kind, and there's been no formal trainings that they've attended to learn about it yet.
So last question, so this is another issue that came up, I guess, in the last couple of weeks where I guess the first group of surveys that we sent out related to Panorama, we noted that they were like anonymous surveys because they were just trying to grab the overall climate and culture, right?
Last year.
So but then this year, they're not anonymous.
The individual surveys.
Right,
are
because
not
they're individual surveys for the purpose of putting this data in that portal for the teachers and the administrators to use. So then I started getting concerns, well, what about, should I really answer this at all? Should I answer it honestly? Should I be concerned about my teacher targeting me based upon the way that I answer these questions? What have we, and this, even some parents that are work within our system, kind of said, well, I'm not comfortable with this. So, what are we doing? Again, and I think that goes back to just not understanding what we're really trying to accomplish here. So, what can we do to address that going forward so that people will be more comfortable with the process?
Absolutely. And Crystal and I have been very open to, please give us feedback. Let us know what the concerns are so that we can then address it. And what we learned in the fall were when the concerns came up of, wait, this one is individual, now they're going to know their names, now they're going to know their responses. We shared all the questions that were going to be asked. So there was full transparency of, here's what we're trying to ask of your students. Only those that teach your students have access to their information, or those that are administrators at their school. So other schools cannot view your students' information, don't have access to that. If there's something that you're uncomfortable with, a specific question, reach out, let us know what your concerns are about those particular questions, because all the questions are related to their well-being. And like I said, their ability to have life skills and how we can improve those. So the free response is where the students have the ability to, in the SEL questionnaire, it was name an accomplishment that you're proud of. And the second question was name something you want your teacher to know about you. And what we found was our 3rd through 5th grade responses were dogs, family, brother, sister. They wanted them to know about their families. Our 6th through 12th graders, ADHD, anxiety, mental health, stress. They want us to know what's going on with them. Now, again, that's free response, so the students can say whatever they want. So if they want to bring attention to themselves from their teacher, they can do that. They also can leave it blank and not answer anything.
So what has been the percentage of our just overall opt-out or just not responding at all?
The opt-out is handled at the school level, so the students just don't take the survey. So I don't actually have an official number on the percentage that have opted out. We do know the response rate, so we know how many students participated, so I guess we could look at it that way. I just don't know if those that didn't participate were absent, or opted out. I don't know the correlation.
I'd like to mention too that we've been very strategic about buy-in, because it's important that the principal and all of the supportive staff understand why we're doing the survey. And so we did 2 very different surveys. So one was an assessment of my individual self. Do I have the soft skills? Can I manage my emotions? Do I know what to do? And then the other one was the environment in which they go to school, they learn, and what's happening on the campus. And so the surveys were close together, and I can see how they can run together, but some of that we didn't have a lot of control over because we did have to halt in the fall, and then we pushed forward and we made sure we made all the information clear, and then the next survey came up. So we have tried to be very diligent about having buy-in, making it clear so that everyone understood what was happening. There is as far as the anonymous piece, there is a margin of when there's a small number of people that answer, it gives
The
confidentiality, it maintains that. And so we did get those questions about, well, how do I, if I'm the only male on campus and I'm answering the question, so we did try to answer those as well about the confidentiality clause.
And look, I think your strategic approach at the administrator level, at the district level has been great. I think doing, kind of that phasing in has been great. The concern is that, we all know that those teachers are really the heart of the school. And if we haven't gotten down to that level so that they understand it, then, there's still a critical missing piece. And
I agree. And we have every intention. We started in January officially. And so from January to now February, we really have covered a lot of ground, and the teachers are next. The next move for us is to go onto the campuses to do some observations. Amy got to do a learn and walk today. And so I'm still doing 2 jobs. And so once my job is filled, then I'll be able to step out a little bit more. But that is our next quest, is to be on campuses, working with the school well-being teams. It is in the plan.
Thank you.
And if I could add something too, we are making this a huge part of our communication plan for both employees and families to understand the why behind it, I think is important. And, why is it important and what are we doing? And how it's everyone's job. It's all of our jobs to do this every day with each other. And so, we'll see more of that going out as well. So I think we'll begin to see it starting to get down to the classroom teacher level understanding as we move forward.
Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment. Like, I am very hopeful for this program. I love the idea of what you guys are trying to do, and I've spoken to some of the teachers, and I understand that they're trying to incorporate this training that they're getting, and my thing is to just be an encouragement that basically what all of this is about is getting to a point where we can actually teach the children in a classroom where they know that the teacher cares about them learning. The emotional part of this is what the kids bring from home and take back with them. Because what you guys are trying to instill here is not just going into the children in the classroom, they're going home with that. And to keep them hopeful that regardless of the response that they're getting when they go home, right, concerning the things that they learn about communicating and seeing themselves in a different light, has to be a continuation from the top down. I like to encourage our teachers not to get discouraged if someone is not receptive, just to continue to be the seeder, right? And let that seed, the seed has its own DNA. It has a DNA to sprout and produce a harvest. So if they just continue to seed that field and not get discouraged because the child is not receptive the first time they interject this, because children are perceptive. They are. And my experience just with my own children, they read me as well as I read them. And knowing that I walk the talk is, a huge factor. And they don't have to get discouraged just because they don't see an immediate response. Just continue to be that. Consistency is so important. And I say that because I know that you guys are installing these tools, so I just want to encourage that.
Thank you. And I'd like to say, as far as the buy-in piece goes, that's exactly what it speaks to. It's that you have to believe it, and it has to be authentic. Because if I get in front of you and I spout off our core values, and then I turn around and I start, yelling at somebody, well, that's not showing those. So we have to model. And one of the things, Crystal and I, we are under no illusion that the two of us are going to be able to change the entire district. We know that those seeds have to be planted all the way from the top down to the bottom. And what we've been doing is in the meetings that we go to, and even in our department meetings, we're teaching skills, we're modeling skills. And the feedback that we've gotten is, we did a breathing exercise with our principals. Then some of those principals went back and they did it with their staff at their staff meeting. And they were like, you know what? It kind of revived everybody. It kind of gave everybody a chance to kind of exhale and feel better. So then those teachers can go and replicate that in the classroom. So we can't be in every classroom, but we can help the people who are. And so that's what we're trying to do. So thank you for seeing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to mention too that the power of emotion is amazing. We are clinicians, so we're a studier of the behaviors of people. And I didn't come expected to be moved tonight, but when the pastor sang, God bless America, my husband is an airman. He has gone and served our country. I could stand up because I'm proud and I know what he had to go through. When you spoke about being a black woman, I could relate. So the power of relatability, the power to speak to someone's emotions by what's happening and what's being said is more powerful than a lot of things that could be happening, and it can change behaviors when they feel like they can relate.
And in saying that, what's, I hate to say good about this whole situation, regardless of who you are, where you live, we all go through the same thing. Hurricanes, the virus, the shutdowns, meltdowns. So I think that's what makes it 100% for all of our kids.
It's compelling because we can all relate to it. We all know how important it is now more than ever.
All right, thank you,
I have
ladies.
one thing I'd like to say.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Rose.
I appreciate, the whole input. It's a lot. I just feel like it's not got to our employees. They don't really understand what it's all about. It's taking time out of their day. They have 100 things on their plate already every day. And I'm really concerned about adding. I know you say it's not adding to the plate, but it is adding to the plate. And we have to think about our employees and what we're already asking them to do. Right now, it's kind of, like you said, you really hadn't got to the staff to what are you really supposed to do every day? Why are we meeting every morning to do this or every week or whatever? They don't understand. And to them, it's taking time from teaching math, science, English, and whatever. So I'm just not really sure, that we've got to that level yet. I mean, it would be nice for them to understand what's going on because we're asking them to do one more thing. And it is very important. It is very important that we all consider each other and consider our attitudes when we do something. But at this point, I think we're just asking a lot and they don't have answers and they really don't even know who to ask. What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I doing this? So it's definitely a work in progress. And I appreciate it. I know y'all worked hard, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. And I mentioned today, Ms. Silly put up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and on the bottom 2 tiers of that pyramid are physiological and safety needs. And I understand that the teachers want to progress and we want them to progress, but really if a child does not feel that physiological need and safety, which falls under that social emotional portion, they will not be able to learn all the other tools. And so we are trying to be diligent to get the information out there, but we're happy to answer any questions. We want to do the classroom observations. We are a resource, an added resource to our parish. Mental health is at the forefront of the world, of the state. And so we're 2 clinicians, we study behaviors of people, and we're here to assess. So if teachers want to contact us and ask us questions, we are happy to do that. If they want us to come say, hey, I'm having a problem with Johnny, I just don't know how to help Johnny, we're gonna pull the panorama data, we're gonna pull their discipline data, we're gonna find out if it's a regular or a student with services, IEP or IAP, and we're gonna see how we can support them in any way we possibly can.
And Ms. Rose, I just want to say really quick, I appreciate that feedback because I told my husband, I said, oh yeah, I'm going to the school board tonight. And I was like, people are tired of hearing Amy and Crystal. People are tired of hearing about SEL. And to hear you say, people don't know who to call. I'm like, well, shoot, okay, we got to get in front of some more people. So sorry if you're tired of hearing of us, but we're going to keep on going. So thank you for that.
And look, I want to say this for Amy Fairchild and Crystal Hooper. You guys officially started your role in January, right?
Yes.
Like, that was like a month ago? Yeah. So y'all were doing it in your other jobs, like just trying to help us to get it started. But now, we advertised for the positions and you guys applied, and then, so you're in it full time now. So also, you know, this is a huge piece of our strategic plan, which is part of our well-being, is there's a whole priority for social emotional with all kinds of little actions that we're going to be doing. And a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight are part of that. So we're in the early phases of, you know, it's just like we want it done yesterday because we know how important it is. But it's a process. It's going to take us a little minute to get it rolled out to the teacher level. But it's going to be a great thing for our students when it happens. So we appreciate the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to committee reports. Policy Committee of the Whole, February 1st, 2022. Do I have a
Move to adopt.
motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Mingus?
And just a comment on that report, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
And just want to remind the public and the board that one of the things that came out of that meeting was the announcement that March the 8th it will be the day that we will actually be presenting reapportionment maps and voting on which maps we're going to forward to the full board for final consideration. And then that final consideration will be the following Tuesday, March the 15th. So March 8th, have your maps ready to present to the committee for consideration, and then final adoption will be on March the 15th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duncan. Any other comments? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Capital Outlay Committee of the Whole, February 10th, 2022. I have a motion.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Mingus.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bush. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, the Finance and Audit Committee report, February 10th, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Sandra.
Second.
Second by Ms. Rose. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving to Superintendent's reports and recommendations. Return of the 1940 football team photo to Ponchatoula High School.
Yes, Mr. President. We have a photo, again, of the 1940 football team. Before we get up to the podium to return it back, we have a representative here from Ponchatoula High, Mr. Tim Matte, who is the AD of Ponchatoula High. We're going to ask Tim to come up in a moment, but you can wait just a second, Mr. Matte, thank you. But we're going to read the letter, because I think it's better sound here for the letter than it is at the podium. So I want to read the letter that we received along with the picture, and then I'm going to ask the Ponchatoula board members and any of our other board members, actually, that want to come up to the podium and take a picture, returning it back to Ponchatoula High. So this letter was written and sent to our district athletic director, Mr. Mark Vining. And it was written by Audie Starkey about his dad, Mr. Ellis Starkey. It says, "Dear Mr. Mark, my dad, Ellis Starkey, was living in Pumpkin Center and going to Ponchatoula High School in 1942. He left school at 17 and he joined the Navy when the war broke out. After the war, he got out of the Navy and he joined the Army. He stayed in the Army for 23 years. We traveled all over the world and I went to 8 schools in 12 years. Dad retired in 1967. Mom died in 1996. And Dad remarried a lady and moved to Hawaii. Dad died 8 years ago. His wife sent me a lot of my dad's belongings, and in the belongings, I found this picture. I hope the high school, Ponchatoula High School, will keep it forever because it traveled the world with my dad. I know it meant a lot to him. Thanks for being so nice. Audie W. Starkey. And he says, I think they talked on the phone first because he called up here and he was looking for someone to contact to get the picture back. He said, I never talked to my dad about this picture, and Dad is not in the picture. But he did tell me that he played in 41 and or 42, so I figured that my dad knew everyone in the picture. That's probably why it meant a lot to him. He wanted us to know that all the different places that this picture has traveled with his father over the years. He said it had been to Texas, Kansas, New Mexico, Japan, back to Texas 2 or 3 times back and forth, actually, to different places, Shreveport, Korea, Kansas again, Louisiana, Hawaii, which was where he lived, his final place. And then the son is living in Maple Falls, Texas, and his widow sent it to the son there. And now he said, I'm sending the picture home where it needs to stay, Ponchatoula High School. Thanks, Audie Starkey. So I'm going to give the letter. We're going to go up, take a picture of our Ponchatoula board members and
Hey, Cindy,
anyone
could you
else.
point, of course, it's Ponchatoula, I would have somebody play it on the team, right? 33 on the bottom is my great uncle, DeWitt Kitchen. My great grandfather watched every game. My great grandmother would not go to one. Never really gave us an answer. Also, Tim Mattei, our athletic director, Mr. Duncan, wanted me to ask this question. We beat Hammond 32-0 that year. Have we been beating Hammond since 1940, or has it been before? You a historian, I know you'll know. Has it been before 1940 we've been beating Hammond, or just started there? I'm not sure about that, but we'll get back. Mr. Duncan, we'll get back.
I will do some research.
It's still the high school. It's still like the high school. That's a lot bigger.
Here's the picture.
I've never seen a picture of it.
And here's the little letter that he wrote, and we're going to turn up the picture back.
That's the biggest exciting games I've ever watched play with Independence.
Really? And I was looking at
Item 2, consider approval of the 2022-2023 school calendar.
Yep, so I have a few notes here, and then we'll give our administration's recommendations. The calendar options, I'm just going to go over the little process that we had. The calendar options were sent to our board members in advance to sending to our employees for input. And we had at least one of our board members that gave us some input. We made the change in those calendars before sending them out. Then options 1 and 2 were pushed out for vote and feedback from both families and employees. We sent them by email to our families. We didn't push them out on Facebook, but we sent them to the email on file and also to our employees. The employees and the parents had several weeks to submit their calendar choice and provide feedback. We had about a little over 1,300 employees to, give their input and choice of the calendar, and a little over 1,100 families. This year we did it a little differently. We added the family component. Each year since I've been superintendent, some of the feedback that I've gotten from families and probably some of our board members, is they question why they don't have an opportunity to weigh in on the calendar. And so this year, we wanted to make it a point to email and include them, their voice in the calendar options, and we did that. And this was our first time to do that. We also, the other thing that we did differently that we had not done in the past is we put an option on there for our employees, for both families and employees, to provide optional feedback. So they would provide their choice, and then they had a place where they could put optional feedback. We had 101 employees respond, and so we had about 37 employees mentioned that they would like for us to consider more time before Christmas, to have more time off before Christmas. We had another portion mentioned, wanted us to consider the balanced calendar, which we were actually all surprised about that because, remember last year about the balanced calendar?
Overly rejected.
Yeah, it was totally rejected, or it seemed like it was. So we did have some that mentioned that. And then we had some that mentioned about Mardi Gras, wanting the whole week off instead of, I think, the schools get 3 days off. So based on the feedback from that, we put on Monday morning, because it closed Friday night, that survey. Friday morning, we put a pulse check out to employees because we did have, out of the 101 responses, we had the most of those were about more time before more time before Christmas. That was 37, or close to it. So we put out a pulse check just to sort of gauge, we didn't really have time to turn around a calendar to put out. So I just wanted to gauge, the interest. Basically the question was, the stem of the question was, you have 10 days. The board policy says you have 10 days. So would you rather have more time before Christmas, or would you rather have more time after Christmas off? That was the question. The results of the survey, this was this afternoon before I came into the meeting, was about 76%. It lingered 75, 76 since it was put out yesterday morning. Of the employees prefer to have the time after Christmas versus before. We had 1,385 employees responding. Most of the employees that do respond to the surveys are teachers, paras. We have some bus drivers that respond, but for the most part, it's, school-based, classroom teachers and that sort that respond. So based on this information, our recommendation is to ask the board to adopt calendar option 2 for this upcoming school year, and I think, Cindy has it up on the screen, and what it's showing here is, if you can see it, the HD in December that's a half a day for students, and then they have, Thursday and Friday off before the Christmas weekend. That was kind of the feedback, was that some employees wanted more time off that week. So that's why we asked that. But this is calendar option 2. On the first vote that we did, I think I forgot to say that, but it was like 72% of the vote, or 70%, somewhere between 70 and 72. And then on the pulse check today from yesterday, it's 76% prefer it before after Christmas. So, that's our recommendation, and I'll take any questions.
Let's go ahead and get a motion and a second, and then we can discuss it.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms.
Second.
Robin. Second by Ms. Sandra. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Robin.
Okay, how many employees do we have?
We have a total of 2,800.
2,800 employees, and how many actually voted?
Well, on the first calendar that we put out, the first time, we had 1,332 employees vote. So not quite
Not
Yeah,
quite,
it's like not
yeah.
even half-
Not even half of our
Yeah.
employees voted. So when it comes time, when this comes out next year, all of those employees who did not vote, remember, you did not vote. You had an opportunity to make that choice and make this differently. So that's one thing we need to take into consideration when we're taking this calendar up. This is not something that Ms. Stilley wants. This is not something that the central office wants. This is something that the employees said they want. And if your voice is going to be heard, you have to vote. It's like with anything. If you want your voice heard, you have to vote. That's my opinion on it.
Now, we have about, 1,200 teachers, 1,300 teachers. So you know, like, that's why I said the majority of these that vote are like the teacher category. We do have some paras that vote, and others at the school, a few bus drivers, but for the most part, most of them are the instructional staff that are voting.
All right.
That just tend to respond more.
Go ahead, Mr. Tom.
I've got several, and I know in a perfect world, I know I've been very vocal about this calendar and about issues with the survey and issues with the process, and I've made several recommendations. To answer what Robin's talking about, some of the employees, and it's some of the feedback in here is the employees didn't feel necessary to put feedback because they didn't feel like anything will be done. This is the first year that we've had feedback. Where some of the comments were positive, that they were impressed that we had feedback. But a lot of the employees felt like it was useless to comment or useless to vote simply because if you look at calendar 1, it had us going to school half a day on the Friday before Christmas Eve. So if you take half a day before Christmas Eve and you throw that calendar out, how many do you have left? You have 1. Why vote if you know that most everybody's going to throw out one option and you're only left with the second option? The second flaw, and I'm going to try to be quick about this, but the second flaw, in my opinion, on the survey, you had to vote for 1 or 2 to leave feedback. If Randy Bush wanted to put feedback, he had to pick, if he didn't like 1 or 2, you still had to vote for 1 or 2 to get the option to put feedback, which there again, in my opinion, and I already shared this with the superintendent, it flaws the data because if I don't like 1 or 2, I still have to vote for 1 or 2 just to tell you that I didn't like 1 or 2. The third thing would be that she told us in the email, or by email, that there was, and she just said it again, that we had 101. Well, if you take the 111 comments from the family members, now we have 212 feedback, not 100. So whenever we're told that we have very little feedback, or a very small percentage, 200 people, not all of them, some of them are not, some of them are positive and some of them are different things, but all these in yellow, I'd be glad to give this to y'all if you want to look at it. All this in yellow are people that are concerned about the Christmas timeline. My suggestion, and I put a Facebook post out encouraging teachers to vote because I'm like Robin, I wanted input. Well, that told the teachers that I was concerned about this, so I got inundated with phone calls and texts. I have the copies of emails here from people that said, hey, I didn't know we could even have feedback because we never had it before. I got emails from here saying people that I didn't see it. I don't know how they didn't see it. It was right there below the vote. But teachers that were concerned enough to email me personally to say, hey, I didn't like 1 or 2. So what I recommended to Ms. Stilley was to take 2 days and move it from behind New Year's and move it in front of Christmas to give our teachers more time to prepare for Christmas. If you look at the calendar on, where's it at? December, right there where we have a half a day on that Wednesday, move that half a day to Monday on the 19th. Let them have their parties on the 19th. We still keep that half a day. Then we have 2 extra days for the employees. And then on the back side of that, in the January, we have 2 professional days on Thursday and Friday. I don't know the reasoning for all the professional days. That's above my pay grade. But all you have to do is just back that up 2 days. The misleading part of that really offended me is on the second survey, and she just said what the gist of the second survey was. But if you look at the second survey and you read that, on recap of option 2, it says students return Monday, January the 9th. The next paragraph, it says, as opposed to January the 2nd. That's a 7-day difference. So right there, I knew, I was like, wait a minute, people are gonna be scared to death to think, oh, well, I'm gonna get 2 extra days in the front, but I'm gonna give up 7 days. This is the second survey. Reiterated by, on the way here tonight, one of the teachers called about the Sumner softball project. Told them I was on the way to the school board meeting, and they said, well, Tom, are we talking about the calendar tonight? I said, yes, we are. They said, well, I was for the more days at the beginning until I saw that we were losing 7 days. Well, nobody wants to lose 7 days, and if you look here, it says January the 9th, as opposed to January the 2nd. It's just a play on numbers. It's accurate. It's accurate if you consider that one of those is for students and one of those is for teachers. But if you just move the teachers strictly from the 5th to the 3rd, it's just 2 days, from the 5th to the 3rd. Same thing on the front end if you change it 2 days. I just didn't understand why this was so difficult. And I debated all day. I even called Brett. I didn't call any of the board members to discuss this because I didn't want to politic. I'm not opposed. I have no dog in this hunt, except for this right here. The employees that are saying there's a problem. And I believe there should have been a simple solution a week ago. And I believe there was misleading information in the surveys which resulted in tainted numbers. We will never get a calendar where everybody is happy. That will never happen. But I believe as a board, we need to address our policy on how we select this. And that's what I've asked Mr. Duncan, that we can put that on our calendar. We need to address the way we do this. I know the intent is well. And I appreciate the intent of getting information from our employees to come up with a good calendar. But when the employees feel like, okay, one option stinks, and let's see. They both suck. That's from a teacher at Martha Vineyard. One of them says, does my opinion really matter? That's from Ponchatoula, from Tucker Elementary. Who would ever think it's okay to have students go to school up to December 23rd? So when you have one that's obviously thrown out, they feel like they have no choice, which resulted in the feedback, which resulted in we need to address that feedback honestly and fairly. I would like to make a motion to amend the recommendation from the administration to just adjust that one thing, just 2 days, where teachers go from coming back on the 5th to coming back on the 3rd, and then on the front end, have their parties on the 19th, a half a day, and be off on the 20th and the 21st. It's just a 2-day swap. It won't make everybody happy, but it will address this, and it'll give them the 4 days that they're asking for before Christmas. I'd like to make that in form of amendment.
Amendment's been made. Is there a second to the amendment?
I'm gonna second so we can, I got a few questions I wanna ask.
Second by Mr. Bush. Go ahead.
On the 19th, that's a Monday, so we know the kids are not gonna come to school that day, obviously, party or not. What is our?
No, we don't know that. It's a school day, so it's a half a day.
I'm guessing.
The buses run, people report, it would be a half a day.
And then, so on the 21st, that half a day.
So it's 10 days.
10 days.
Board policy, you get 10 days, that's it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I read all the comments today, and then, so the kids would come back on the 1, 2, 3, 4.
So if you count the days,
5th and 6th.
you count out 10 days, that puts you right after January there, January 1st somewhere. Then you have the semester in for high school that has to be adjusted. That's another.
These are professional days.
So if you move that, you're saying that the semester won't end until January, possibly?
That will have to be adjusted as well. I don't know when it would.
Because you got to have the equal amount of days in the first semester
Yes,
as you have in the second semester.
Yes. And you get 10 days, that's it. So you would have to count it out, starting if the 19th is a half a day, and, count out the days to 10, which I believe, let's see, that would get you close to.
January 2nd.
What?
January 2nd.
Yeah. So,
So students would come back, with what Mr. Toller is asking, students would come back on the 2nd of January?
No.
No.
The
Can't.
3rd, you said?
Has to be the 4th.
For when the
Didn't you
teachers.
say?
Well, that's 10 days.
If you get 10 days holiday.
If you get 10 holidays, you
Which I
start,
guess you move the professional development days up.
so the 20th would be their first day. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 would be the 2nd of January.
You count the weekends?
No, I did not count the weekends. I only counted school week.
Okay.
If you don't count the weekend.
You start on the 20th,
Yeah.
and then you go to the 26th through the 30th.
But remember, you got 2 professional development days, so the 2nd, the 3rd would be professional development. Don't get.
But employees would still have to report to work, and that's the issue, that's why they voted for the second calendar, is that,
Employees would come back to work on the 3rd. It would just move 2 days.
I know, but I think that what the employees have said to us on 2 different surveys is that they don't want to come back early in January. They would rather push it back a few days.
I don't want to argue about it. You know, I'm doing what I'm going to do just because these people have asked for it. Like I said, I don't.
75% of the employees said
Do
later.
not like the way the process was handled. I think we will fix this on policy.
All right, Mr. Duncan had word?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so the calendar that the majority voted for is that we would only be off the 2.5 days before Christmas, right? The majority.
That's correct, 2 different times. 70, anywhere from 72 to 76% of
And they
the,
preferred to go that close to Christmas
yes.
because, what do you think?
The only option they had.
What
Well,
are they
no,
thinking?
the second, the pulse check that I did yesterday said, the question was, you get 10 days by board policy. What is your preference, basically? Do you prefer the 10 days before Christmas, the majority of your days, the most of your days before Christmas, or after? And 76% of the employees said after Christmas.
After being,
Okay, Mr. Duncan?
So I was just wanted to share with the rest of y'all kind of what Mr. Toller and I talked about this morning, because this incident, this issue kind of reminded me of a similar issue that we had with the school calendar that really, I guess, maybe only me, Sandra, and Rose were on the board back then, that had to do with how early we started school. And it became, it just kind of exploded as a result of a couple of folks that commented about it on Facebook. And at the initial portion, that, when it first happened, you would have thought that 90% of the parents in Tangipahoa Parish thought that we should delay the start of school. And so in response to that feeling, the board adopted for that year a very extensive feedback process on the adoption of the academic calendar. We had multiple meetings before we even presented options. We had people come in and explain, why the academic calendar needed to be this way. They talked about instructional minutes and, when the holidays fell and how it needed to be with, just very in-depth public conversation. We then did a survey about the options the type of options that would go out, and then the board finally adopted options that would go out for that final feedback thing, and then we received all of that back before we did the final adoption of the academic calendar. And the interesting part was that after going through that whole extensive process, we actually came to the determination that the vast majority of the public liked us starting earlier, because once they got a full explanation, this whole notion of going later was not something that they really were interested in.
But we ended up with later, didn't we?
We went a few days later, but not anywhere close to where, I think we would have ended up if we would have just gone with that impression. So for me, number one, that informs me that, I am leery of, at this stage of the process, changing something just because, we've heard from a few people. I don't like the idea of adopting an amended calendar without first going out and redoing surveys, which I don't know that we have time to do this year. But I do think that we can adopt a policy that requires that the board has an opportunity to hear, give input, and vote on which options go out to the teachers and parents for them to vote on. And so I think we ought to bring that issue to the policy committee and actually put that into our policy, that the administration will propose some calendars to the board will vote on which options go out to the public and the teachers or employees to vote on, and then once we receive that input, we do the final adoption. And I think that'll give us, a lot more of that opportunity to come, maybe not have that full-blown, super intensive process from back then, but maybe, some middle ground there. But anyway, so I think we'll get that on the next agenda to refer to policy.
Thank you.
Westmore.
Mrs. Rose.
So on this calendar, well, actually, Ms. Stilley did send us, prior to going out to employees, an opportunity to vote. And I actually did catch something that I didn't think was a good idea, and I sent it to her, and she said, you're right. And we did adjust that calendar. I did ask her about not starting on a Friday.
Yeah, that was a good point.
And so she said, yeah, I never thought of that. Let's do that, because it makes people go on a Friday. They have to get a babysitter just for the one day of that week, and the daycares don't take them for one day. So we did it to Monday. So we did have an opportunity this time to do that before it ever went out. And I had questioned, why do we have so many professional development days as well? Because we've never had that many before during the school year. And so that kind of makes us have extra days. But we had wanted to, years ago, start school as, not real early or not real late, just kind of like we've always been starting at the beginning of August, but get out before Memorial Day. Because why go to school the day after Memorial Day? Nobody goes on Monday. The kids want to go on a holiday. And so we tried to change the calendar so that we could finish a semester before Christmas break with the minutes that we have to have, and still finish the second semester before Memorial Day. And that's kind of how it all worked in. I'm not sure that doesn't say anything about worked in days here for emergencies.
You mean emergency days?
Yeah, emergency
days. There's some days built in. I can't remember exactly how many it was. 5 emergency days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it didn't say that on here. But I'm just still not understanding about the professional development. I know we need them at the beginning, but why do we have so many spaced throughout the year? If you could just give us the explanation.
So here's the why. And then I want to hit on some of the parent input. But on the professional development days, we have a lot of newer teachers that are coming into the profession, and we have teachers that are uncertified that we have to hire because we can't find certified teachers. And so we know that we need days throughout the year for training for teachers and the curriculum and then also days in which they need school training, like, even the social emotional stuff. I mean, that's how you get it down to the teacher is, getting them together and talking about it, with them, like face to face. And so if you don't have those days built in, used to, not that long ago, but we used, before the pandemic, we could hire substitutes for grade level teachers, or we could hire substitutes for the English teachers, and we could, they could go to a training and the substitutes could cover the class. Well, now we have such a substitute problem that we can't, that option is not possible. So the professional development is key. We've got to have the professional development days. Now, one of the things that the parents and families, I don't know how many times, I didn't go down and count every time, but I did notice a trend. Please, no virtual, no virtual days, please. And you'll see on here that, there are no virtual days on the calendar. The only time we would have one is if, we had to call off school because of, road conditions or something, and we would do a virtual day at home. But there's nothing on there virtual on this calendar, which I think is listening to our families.
agree about that.
All right, any other
You
discussion?
gonna hit that gavel? You second that?
I second that.
I just wanted to say, I agree with a lot of the comments that Tom said, and I also can't imagine teachers wanting to go that close to Christmas. But I can't vote against the results of the survey when the majority have voted to go this other way. So that's where I am.
All right, well, y'all ready to vote on the amendment? So the vote is going to be whether to allow the amendment that has been motioned by Mr. Toller and seconded by Mr. Bush.
Glenn, could you state exactly what that amendment is?
The amendment is to take 2 of the days that were in 2023 and move them back to December of 22. So in other words, you're going to have 4.5 days off before Christmas, but after New Year's, the students are only going to have, how many? They go back on the 4th.
I mean, I think the easiest way to put it is that,
Christmas break on the 19th, is that what we're trying to do?
Yes, that would be half
it
a
would
day
be-
on the 19th.
I guess the motion is to not uphold the administration's recommendation.
No, it's to amend.
Well, it's to
Amend
amend
it,
it.
okay. Well,
It's to amend it.
same thing.
Well, I
My only
just wanted
thing
to
is,
add this, I'm sorry, Rose.
My only thing is there enough time to finish the semester? We don't know that tonight.
I don't know that.
If we change that, we definitely don't want to go back after the Christmas with tests to take or grades to manage. We want to be done. So at this point, if we don't know that, I would hate to switch that.
All right, well, I've called for a vote, so we're going to vote on it.
Voting is open.
I just wanted to have the discussion to see what Mr. Taylor's point was.
Voting is open. It's, motion to amend the administration's recommendation and to swap 2 days from January and add prior to the December break. I have to reword that. Is that right? 2 holidays. Thank you. I can't switch it now.
And we're gonna do that on this calendar without kicking it to the committee?
That's the
Yes,
motion.
That's the motion, to change it.
So we'd actually be usurping
Administration's recommendation.
right, also
Survey.
the vote. We'd also be usurping that.
Right.
I think we should, if we're gonna take it to the committee, we should take it to the committee. And I mean, we can vote on it, but I think that we should go with.
Yeah, I call for the vote. It's either yes
Yeah,
or no.
I think we should go with it and then, move to take it to the committee at a later date. I don't
No,
think-
this is the vote tonight. Whatever we vote tonight is it. The committee's done. You're voting right now to change the superintendent's recommendation, yes or no, and then you're going to go back and vote to yes or no to accept her recommendation,
If it fails.
if this fails.
So right now, we're just voting on.
On
the amendment.
the amendment of moving the 2
Whether to
days,
accept the
yeah,
amendment.
the
Okay,
2
I got you.
days, yeah. You have to go back to the board docs, yeah.
Voting is closed. Motion fails with Mr. Toller voting yes.
All right, call for a vote on the school calendar as recommended by the administration.
Voting is open.
And this is with the understanding that Mr. Duncan's gonna take this in
Policy.
policy, we're gonna fix this for next year.
Yep.
Voting is closed. Motion passes motion passes with Mr. Toller voting no.
Moving on to other board action, consider approval of industrial tax exemption for Fisher Manufacturing Services We have two public comments, and maybe I'm going to let them go first, and then I'm going to let Mr.
Do you
Snodback.
mind if I make a presentation first?
Sure, go ahead.
Just really want to clarify so you understand the administration's position. Before y'all tonight is consideration of an industrial tax exemption for Fisher Manufacturing Services. Fisher Manufacturing Services is a company down in Ponchatoula. They purchased some machinery and equipment valued a little over $244,000. They've also created one new position paying a salary of $20,000 annually. This business is in the Ponchatoula area, subject to only our constitutional millage tax of 4.06 mils. The total exemption is on the total parish-wide mills for Ponchatoula, which is 106.02 mils. So really, our interest is only on 3.8% of the exemption. The 10-year tax exemption is $31,000, or really $3,100 a year, but the school board's portion is only $1,188 over a 10-year period, or $118 of lost revenue for the school district. That said, the administration has no opinion on this.
So you said $118 a year?
$118 a year, yes, sir.
All right.
I think you have two public inputs.
Yes, I do. Yes, let's go ahead and get a motion, and a motion by Mr. Toller.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bush.
Motion to
Motion to
approve?
approve
Okay.
the exemption.
Mr. Snodgrass.
We have,
Could he clarify something first?
sure.
So what you're saying is they're added $244,000. They invested $244,000 for a machine, and they're investing $20,000 more into one person's employment
Annual employment.
for this request. They're doing those two
This
things
tax
for this
exemption,
request.
They made a investment in their company, $244,000, of which that item is subject to sales tax. So we get, as a school district, we're getting a percentage of sales tax revenue on this additional equipment when they first put it in, the first use tax. And then there'll be some property tax exemptions. The total exemption is $31,000 for the entire parish. Our portion is only $1,188 over a 10-year period.
Question though, Mr. Snyder. So, but my understanding of the way that this law works now with the approval process is that each of the taxing entities make the election as to whether their portion will be exempted or not. But do all three have to vote in favor for any portion to be exempt?
Mr. Duncan, I'm not certain on that.
Okay.
Maybe Mr. Moody,
I don't think all three have to pass.
Right, that's my understanding is that the sheriff will make a determination as to whether he agrees if his portion will be exempt, and then the parish government will make a vote to determine whether their portion should be exempt, and then the school board makes their own determination. So if we were to vote yes, then he would get the benefit of the $1,000 over 10 years. If we were to vote no, he wouldn't, but he could still get approval from the sheriff and the parish. Is that, I mean, I guess, is that Ginger's understanding? Yes. Okay.
All right, I'd like to call up Ms. Ginger Cangelosi, who would like to make comment on this.
Get the point. Is that it?
Well, we have two public inputs, don't we?
Nick Fisher.
I'm Nick Fisher.
All right, well, Nick had also,
Fisher Manufacturing. It says 400.
so we all gonna both want, y'all, excuse me, do y'all both want to speak or just one?
Well,
There's two forms.
It's two.
I know, yeah, I mean,
and I appreciate you.
yeah, no. Okay.
I've been in business 40 years. The job that it creates is a $60,000 a year job. It's not a $20,000 a year job.
Okay.
The machine that we buy is to increase our productivity. We don't go spend money like this at random. We need this machine. We would like to hire more people, but unfortunately, in today's environment, it's extremely difficult. You people educate the people that we try to hire. And so, in turn, it's a trade-off. And I appreciate what y'all doing. But for us to try and find qualified people to do this, is extremely difficult in today's society. We go through a number of people in the course of the years, and we find out that more than likely people oversell their ability, and they want to start high, and because they want to make plenty of money. We all do. But it's a process. And, for us as a manufacturer, these machines are extremely expensive. They're highly technical, and to crash one of them costs us more than sometimes the machine work. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Ginger, would you like to speak?
Well, I put in a
Yeah, I know.
note to comment, really to offer myself here in case anyone had any questions or wanted clarification specifically on the numbers associated with Mr. Fisher's request. Mr. Schnottelbach did an excellent job of kind of honing in on those numbers. So my prepared statement was really to say exactly what he said. And when you say tax, he's requesting a tax exemption, people tend to think that you're asking for 100% waive. We could tell you how much Mr. Fisher pays in sales and property taxes on the other 11 machines that he owns, and property tax. Property tax on the building and property alone is over $6,500 that he pays just in, on the building and the land. But to succinctly say that they're really asking for, let's call it a discount, not an exemption, that equals $118 a year is, I think, the value of that goes in comparison to what he's given back to the community and to all of the different governmental agencies that we ask for the same permission to utilize the exemption, which he is really statutorily allowed to ask for.
All right.
So it's really just on our
Thank you.
constitutional millage, you said, right? Not on the Hammond stuff or none of the sales tax?
His piece of property is only subject to our constitutional millage. There's no other taxes that we place on this property at this location.
Okay.
All right. Any further, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion or?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
This business and this family's in my district, and they are what has made our parish small business, working 24 hours a day, and to come and ask for $118. And I voted for every tax exemption that would come before us, because when you add a $60,000 job, an employee, they'll pay more taxes than that in a week than they're going to save here. So absolutely, I'm in favor of this. It's a good decision, I think, by our school board to support our local families and our local businesses in our area.
All right. Any other discussion? Do we not have a motion? I thought we had a motion by
made a
Mr.
motion.
Tom and seconded by Mr. Duncan. Or
Okay.
Mr. Duncan's got a question.
No, I mean, I just wanted to briefly explain my position, Mr. Fisher. I appreciate your business. I appreciate the business and the families all throughout our parish, and I appreciate the investment that you're making in our community. And I don't want you to think that my vote tonight signals that I don't appreciate it. I want you to understand, and I've said this to others that have come before us, this board over the past few years has had to go out and make the case many times as to why the community needs to be investing in our school system so that we can improve the quality of what we offer to our community. And so we've been out there explaining that and asking people to support us financially so that we can do the things that we need to do to improve. And so when we cast a vote like this, where we're saying, hey, we want all the rest of you to pay, but we're going to do this exemption for this one category and this one business, it makes it difficult for me. And so for the other votes that we've taken like this, I've kind of created at least a test in my mind that I need to be able to explain to the rest of the community what they're getting in exchange for us offering this exemption. And there's only been one company that's come to us that passed my particular test, and this is just my personal test. And they were moving an entire business here and creating, like, I don't know, it was a lot of jobs in exchange for that exemption. So but one job to me isn't enough for me to explain that to the voters. Now, but the other thing is, look, if our vote was putting in jeopardy like your whole request for the whole 100 meals that you're paying, maybe my position would be a little bit different, but we're only talking about 4 meals out of the 100 meals that you're asking for. So it just kind of, in my mind, weighed out to a no vote for those reasons. But again, I appreciate you, and I don't want you to feel like that I don't appreciate what you're doing. I'm a business person. I understand it, but that's where we're at.
I would like to ask that you would consider one thing in regard to, you just explained your position and I understand, but Mr. Fisher is only one of 2,000 small business owners in Tangipahoa Parish. They can't all be Pratt Industries. They can't all be Medline companies creating 400-something jobs. But the backbone of this community is small business owners like Mr. Fisher and like yourself.
Right.
Who, and please don't ever say just one job.
Amen.
Only creating just one job. To someone, that one job could be a life-changing opportunity. It's never just one job.
I get it. And look, again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm trying to explain the process that I go through. And the issue is that, yes, the vast majority, number one, of homeowners and business owners don't even get the opportunity to come to us and ask for an exemption. This is exclusively for manufacturing companies, okay, that even qualify.
All right, well, we don't really have
And I'm not-
an argument session. I mean, we allowed you to speak publicly, and that's great, but, I mean, let's
Right, so
limit our conversation to the debate before the board right now.
That's right. And I think I've explained it as best I can. But I appreciate every job that's created, but there is a measuring test that to me, I've got to be able to say, okay, here's everything you're getting as a community for us voting in favor of this exemption, and this is why I'm doing it. And there's got to be more than that, because lots of businesses create jobs in this parish every day, but they don't get the opportunity to come to us and ask for a tax exemption.
Any other discussion? We'll call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes with Ms. Simmons, Mr. Duncan voting no, Mr. Moore abstaining.
Okay. Moving to the next action, consider approval of the low quote to construct a crosswalk and a company sidewalk at the Rolanja Middle School Gymnasium. Mr. Schnallbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. If y'all recall, at our capital outlay committee meeting, we had a delay in opening the bids till tonight. We had an opportunity to open the bids for the Rolanja Crosswalk project that has been on our agenda for many, many years. The low bid is from Lawson Bonet Construction in the amount of $197,800. If you recall, the original budget for this project was $140,000. Back in November of 2019, Sane Engineering came before the board and kind of let us know that they estimated the cost of this project to be $212,000. I'm not exactly sure the current engineer's estimates are $122, but you notice the 3 bids we've received are all competitive within $10,000. The administration is comfortable with the $197,800 and recommend approval of this contract.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Andrew, second by
Yes.
Ms. Janice. Any discussion?
My mic wasn't on, I'm gonna say it again, I make the motion.
Did you say something, Ms. Andrew?
Yeah.
Any discussion on this? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to board member comments, Mr. Bush.
You know what, Mr. Westmoreland, I looked everywhere the last couple of days to find a graduate that did something extraordinary. I just couldn't find one. I tried. I looked everywhere. I saw a lot of good LSU players and Louisiana Connection players that played the Super Bowl on both sides.
Right.
And I would like to say, if you hadn't looked at the Rams receiver, is it Kupp, K-U-P-P? You need to read the story about him. It was very, very
Cooper Kupp.
exciting and unique. Thank you, sir.
Is he from Monroe? Where's he from?
No, he's not. Whitlow was from
Right,
Western
he's LSU, right.
Actually retired, I think, after the game, but played at LSU too.
Okay. Ms. Simmons?
I was just impressed with our young lady from La Ronge that sang tonight and did a beautiful job. And of course, pastor from Good News of Fellowship Church. I was impressed with that rendition also, and I appreciate their coming out and sacrificing their time.
Okay. Mr. Duncan?
No.
Ms. Abrams?
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I just want to give hats off to our social emotional crew. I think that they're doing an excellent. I'm praying for them and hoping that this thing takes root. I do believe that it is a solution for our disciplinary policy and with the problem that we're having with our children. And so, yeah, you guys have my prayers and my approval. Hopefully, everyone will buy into this, and we'll get a true harvest from it.
Okay, Ms.
I'm
Dominguez?
good for tonight, thank you.
All right, Mr. Collins?
Just want to thank the administration too. Sumner has needed a softball restroom at the softball field for years. We've talked about that. We've gone through several different options, and of course, money is always an object. But we have the permit in hand. That project is starting. That's going to make a lot of people happy. I was just telling the contractor a few minutes ago by text. I know I'm bugging him, but he's got to understand we have several hundred families out there 2 or 3 times a week playing softball, having to walk to go find a restroom. So I appreciate the help that we've had on that project, and that I know we will continue. And the other thing is I'm glad to see some of the schools in my area have been easing up on COVID restrictions as far as allowing more activities. We constantly ask, and I constantly pray for parents to participate in our children's education. So when they're not allowed to come to things because of COVID restrictions, it hurts us, and it hurts us a lot. Kids need to have their parents and have loved ones there to see their programs. So I'm glad to see that hopefully this trend will continue in the right direction and we have more parents involved in our schools.
Yes, sir. Ms. Richards?
First, I'd just like to give out condolences to Mr. Jim Slavin's family. He was a bus driver in our area for 41 years and gave very dedicated services. We could just remember Mr. Slavin. And we just want to say thank you to the family for allowing him to serve us. Also, I'd like to say to Amite High School for congratulations for the 50K STEM grant that they received. And I want to say congratulations to the success of the Parade of Champions. I was not able to be there, and and it was the funniest thing because I got several calls asking, well, where were you? Where were you? We saw all the other board members. Where were you? So I just want to make it clear, I was not there to attend those 2 things because I was in Austin for my first grandbaby being born. but my heart was right there, and I was celebrating with you. The other thing was,
Your heart was with that grandbaby. You know that.
my heart was here. I was watching everything on, I had the grandbaby here and I was watching. And also, but my heart was here because I changed my flight to be here for the Steamliner ribbon cutting at O.W. Dillon. We were very, very proud. I came in that night and got up for that ribbon cutting. Those kids and the parents and the teachers, they were all excited, and we're looking for great, great things coming from the Steamliner. And we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're going to keep superintendent to the fire for the high school Steamliner.
Ms. Stilla, you have anything? I'd just like to say that the mental health that we're bringing to the schools is something that we definitely need. We see it in our profession, me and Mr. Duncan, in our attorney profession and domestic and criminal litigation. So many people as an adults have a lot of issues, and I think if we can address those at school, that would help us as they become adults. So I'm glad to see we're making progress in that area. So at this time, we'll ask Mr. Duncan to make a motion to enter into the executive session, if he don't mind.
Dee can wait. He has some other cases. Yeah.
Move to enter executive session to consider the matters of Cleo Bridges versus Tango Parish School System and Lee Sharp versus Tango Parish School Board.
You have anything on that?
Here, a second.
Because Ron and I don't have anything.
Second by Ms. Abrams, right?
I'm sorry, who seconded it? Second. Thank you, okay. Just 1 second.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Hear a motion?
On the matter of Cleo Bridges versus Tangible Parish School System, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Here, a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Abrams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously.
On the matter of Lee Sharp versus Tangible Parish School Board, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Here, a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Bush?
Like 3 or 4 people. I don't know which one. All right, that's all to come before the meeting. I will declare the meeting adjourned.